Welcome to Relish Lifestyle. We are on episode 2 of series 3 of our podcast, and we haven't been back long. We were obviously away for Christmas this year.
In Portugal.
And it's actually New Year's Eve, and we are recording. So we are doing this before we start cooking and doing our New Year's Eve plan. So, it's been a wonderful Christmas to be away again. I mean, we haven't been away since I was 12, which everyone else could do the maths, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, no, it was. And, we wanted to do it for ages, haven't we?
Yeah.
Because we love Portugal, but we've not been there for a Christmas. And so we literally decided at the beginning of last year to go. And just kind of booked it. But I think as it gets closer, there's quite a lot of expectation, I think, because it's Christmas as much as it's not just a normal holiday, is it?
No. And obviously we didn't want it to be a normal holiday. We wanted it to be special because, we wanted to celebrate and enjoy the Portuguese hospitality, which we did. So.
Yeah. But Charlie, I definitely think, taking that extra case with all our Christmas stuff in it was, absolutely.
We had
great idea.
We put a hold bag in with our luggage, and obviously we did take some Christmas decks. We took some cooking equipment. We took a hand mixer.
Whisk that had a dough hook on it and everything.
You had your baggies of spices and herbs.
Yeah. But we took 200 fairy lights.
Yeah.
We took baubles. We took other little gold stars,
tablecloth.
Tablecloth napkins. It was.
So
cool.
we were prepared for that. But we were very lucky, actually. We landed quite early doors in terms of leaving Gatwick. And then we landed, and actually we had good weather on the first day.
We were hot, weren't we? Too hot then.
Because obviously we were all dressed up because it's freezing as we were leaving. And then we get there and it was sort of turning.
And it was dark and very, very, very early in the morning. So...
And we obviously had to wait a while before we could check in. So we obviously went to Shilves, up slightly north of sort of Portimao. And it's got this amazing Moorish castle, hasn't it? We had our little sandwich at Cafe de Rosa there.
Oh, that was so fantastic in the square there. And you have stayed there, so you knew the town really well. And so you knew where to park and all, because I think that's the thing when you go to particularly Portugal, but obviously other European places like that. But the streets are really narrow. And in Portugal particularly, they use tiny flint or chunks of stone that are
as cobbles.
They're almost like mosaic. Yeah. And then they're just embedded in sand almost, but they're very narrow and very bumpy, and the pavements are the same, aren't they? But you just knew your way around. And quite often what's the word? Narrow and very precipitous, as in very hilly.
Steep.
You're like, oh my God.
So
scary.
We parked up and we went for a coffee and a bite to eat at Cafe de Rosa.
Oh my gosh. And it was so lovely. It's sitting outside, but also in that place, that lovely lady who took the photographs and she then asked us to go inside because they, like so many places in Portugal, we love the tiles, don't we? And you've got the tiles on the outside, but also on the inside. And this had all these tiles on the inside, blue and white, and then lots of plates that she was trying to explain to us. Some of them were hundreds of years old and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it was festive as well. They'd done a tree and stuff, which is nice. But so then we could check in. We were lucky we could check in a bit early. So we headed off to our house in Olhão. And obviously, as we've said before, this was supposed to be a bit more of a kind of, we were in a town, so we could walk to places, go to, bakeries and the market and things like that. But it's got its own sort of marina, I guess, but it's still very much a working fishing port sort of at one end, wasn't it?
We had that amazing fish market.
Yeah, amazing.
And also what I loved about it, it was a great place, but it was quite contained still. So you almost it still felt very traditional, even though there were obviously modern aspects to it. That's what I really loved about it.
The Mercado was quite new in terms of the rebuild, but the way they've designed it with kind of the domes and then the red brick and everything like that, it definitely stands out as a place to go. And if you are a foodie, which obviously I'm sure most of our listeners are, it's a brilliant market to go to.
Yeah, and do you remember on Christmas Eve, so basically celebrations Christmas Eve, people were kind of working, But the town, there were just hundreds of people. And the fish market, particular catches would come in, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people queuing to get their fresh fish. And then we'd made a slight error, because then we thought, we'd go for a drink. Do you remember in the evening on Christmas Eve? But everything basically closed up about 5. But we were good. We'd gone with tradition. So we had like our normal Christmas Day, we had it on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic, wasn't it? Because we had blue sky. It was really warm. And I don't think I've ever spent a Christmas Day where I really didn't do anything. We sat in the sun. And though the sun was warm, I love it. I mean, though you're sort of still dressed, I know you put your shorts on and stuff, but it was warm enough to sit in and really feel the warmth.
Yeah.
No, we were probably high teens, teetering on maybe 20 a couple of days if you were right in the sun.
Yeah. It was lovely, and it was obviously different to any Christmas we've had.
Do you know the other thing I was thinking, really, Charlie, as well? One of the big things was that extra daylight. We were looking at sunsets and sitting there on that marina, looking at the sunset, at 6 o'clock in the evening. And you forget that when you're here in the UK, that's almost 2 hours. Yeah. I mean, I know we're not completely dark by 4, but sometimes it feels like it.
No, I agree with you.
100%. I mean, I think that extra daylight for me really just extends the day.
And we had our little tiny plunge pool that we used once.
Well, it was freezing.
It wasn't heated.
I went in like the second day or something, and then you said it was too cold, and then you said, well, I can't let my mother beat me and not go in, so you went in.
Yeah, not that we're competitive, of course.
I had to take your photo twice. You were in and out so quick, I couldn't get a photo. I made you go back in.
Well, I wasn't allowed to take a photo of you.
There was a photo of me, though. There is proof that I went in.
But no, so we did our main cooking, as in the main Christmas meal on Christmas Eve, and we found our rack of pork, which we wanted to do.
Do you know what? That was amazing. I mean, this is the sort of rack that you would normally take big pork chops off, but instead of taking the pork chops off, you keep it on.
And that's what I've done before for a friend, and it worked really well, because obviously the cuts are different, as we've discovered in beef as well as pork and others.
And what amazing value.
I know, amazing.
It was such amazing value, and the meat was absolutely delicious.
And I managed to do a Yorkshire pudding without any weights or measures. So
I know they're not particularly traditional, but we had that. We didn't have Brussels sprouts. We did have roast potatoes.
We did.
And we did have carrots and things.
And a gravy.
And some cabbage. We did have, it was relatively traditional.
In terms of British,
yeah, exactly. And you made that amazing cake.
The Bolo Roy,
The Bolo Roy.
So this is like the King's Cake translation. And there's lots of riffs and different ways of making it. The King's Cake, the Queen's Cake, all sorts of things. So you soak whatever fruit you like in some port, which I did. I did raisins and bits and bobs. I think there was some apricot nuts in it. I can't remember. And basically you soak that like we would soak our fruit before we make our Christmas cake. But obviously, unlike our Christmas cake, which is very dense and dark, this is actually very bready and a rich dough.
I was going to say it's a rich dough.
But obviously we didn't have the traditional like cake tin. So I made kind of almost like a star of little rolls, which there was on the Instagram, which was our relish riff on a Roy.
Because we did talk about taking a cake tin, and then I think we forgot the cake tin, but we did actually come back with a roasting tin, because we realised they didn't have roasting tin, so we managed to buy one of those and bring it back. Amazingly.
We did well. So that was our Christmas, but we also obviously did some other cooking. So I don't know, can you remember what we did?
Yeah, you did peri peri chicken.
I did. So that's a lovely cooking. That's a winner.
We did our own curry, which I know is not massively Portuguese, but we did have a lovely curry. We made some homemade burgers. We had there's something like every now and then a homemade burger.
We did the tart flambe.
Oh, the tart flambe. I love those.
Coco Riesling, but obviously it was Coco Alagento, because that was the wine.
Used.
So we did lots of different bits and bobs, and it was brilliant. And we also ate out in Évora as well. We went to one of the places we went was one of this amazing restaurant that did all the meat, didn't it? We went.
Well, it was so let's just rewind, because that was our I also think, Charlie, that was such a great weed and an idea that we had. So basically we thought we'd like to have a night away. You and I both said we'd like to go to Évora, not having been, which is slightly, is it northeast of where were we? Northeast of Lisbon, isn't it?
Yeah, well, no, it's to the east of Lisbon. It's about an hour and a half east towards the Spanish border. So I would say it's closer to the Spanish border than it is to Lisbon.
Yeah, and it took us about 2.5 hours or just over to get, but it was fantastic. And another wonderful historic town, so much history, that we decided to do our last night there. So we'd left the house, drove up there, and I just think it was such a brilliant idea because we actually left that day in the rain.
Yeah,
got there,
but what I was going to say, because obviously that was our trip up to Évora.
My phone was ringing.
That was our trip up to Évora, but obviously the night before we left for Évora, we went to that restaurant that was on the railway station. They'd converted that amazing old railway building and still had the wood in the roof and everything. And we went there and we had a meal there. Lots of slow-cooked meat and things like that.
I had the pig cheeks.
You have pig cheeks with rice and asparagus and things.
Yeah.
And then I had sort of like, almost like a hog. It was like hogs, but it was very slow cooked. But it came with sort of the juice that it was in was kind of what they said was like celery and fruit, but it was like chunks of quince. It was absolutely delicious.
They use a lot of quince.
We saw quince trees, didn't we?
Yeah. They have a lot of quince out there.
It was amazing. But then obviously that was the last meal in Olhão, can't speak, and then we drove up to the Alentejo region. And
so going back to that restaurant, I mean, that was really, really traditional fare. So we wanted to go somewhere that was very traditional fare. And a lot of it is very small menus. You get a choice of basically meat, or fish. But, and a lot of salted cod. But we really wanted to go for something that was very, very traditional. And we ordered, didn't we? We had the veal that actually was grilled.
Yeah.
That was delicious. But the lamb and the pork basically came very similar, and they just slow roast everything.
Yeah.
And then they cook lots of patata bravas, they call them. Have I got that the right?
Similar, but like chunks of potato.
It's chunks of potato. They're not greasy, but they're definitely sort of been roasted. And then they just sprinkle those on. And then I think the only other green thing we have, because I always say you go to Europe, you have to really hunt the green things, was cream spinach, but it wasn't creamy as in it's made with cream.
I think they'd used the stock or something.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Cream. So actually what was interesting is, like you said, typical restaurant. Funny enough, the restaurant was called Restaurant Típico Gial. So it was a typical restaurant. But yeah, we had a wonderful stay there, and we stayed in a really cool hotel as well, which was great.
Yeah, we did.
And it was interesting to obviously have that transition from sort of the house in the town to suddenly having a night in a hotel. It kind of felt a bit, not weird, but it was quite nice that it wasn't, I don't know, you weren't worried about the house anymore. It was like nice to be on those sort of hotel
there was a
vibe.
really nice end, I thought. And also there was Évora used to be their capital city. And so they had the palace there and everything. We are going back a long time, like 17th century. But, I mean, again, lots of little cobbled streets. There was a lot of activity going on, a lot of history. Big cathedral. They got that amazing Museum of Bones. Chapel of Bones, sorry. They are extraordinary things, aren't they?
I wanted to go to the Chapel of Bones for a very long time. And these are scattered across sort of southern France, Spain and Portugal, predominantly. And this one is just a very good example, one of the largest examples of a Chapel of Bones in Europe. And obviously Évora is where it is. So we literally did that. We arrived, parked the car, and we went to the Chapel of Bones. And it's a very eerie, but oddly not like scary or anything. It was just quite calming, but it's odd to see these skulls, and then obviously they use other parts of the body as well, bones, to sort of build walls and pillars and all sorts.
And actually, it's not horrific. They did use bodies because there was a lot of convents and things, and people died, and obviously died young. But it was kind of this almost a reverence of life, wasn't it? That the body was still usable. And I think it was also linked slightly to the Franciscan monks and their beliefs and all that kind of stuff. So there was a huge amount of history there. But yeah, that was incredible. I mean, amazing views as well from Évora, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Across those huge plains.
Yeah. The drive was really good. We sort of came off the motorway and you drove through Alentejo region. So there was lots of vines, wasn't there?
Yeah.
But also we discovered...
almond trees. And lots and lots of almond tree orchards. And of course, there's nothing on them at the moment. So they look like sticks. Anyway, I was looking at all these. I mean, thousands of them. And in the end, we had to stop and I had to go very closely and look at it. And I found what looked like
a husk.
Well, it looked like from a distance, they looked like bits of black olive hanging there.
Yeah.
But when you get close up, because there's no leaves on them.
No.
When you get close up, you can see that they just sort of, leftover bits of almond.
It's used in a lot of their sort of cuisine and food. And actually, we should point out we went to Shilves twice because we went and did the castle down at Shilves. And the reason I'm saying that is I had a little cafe at the top. I had a little orange cake, and obviously they use almond, and all that sort of stuff is used a lot rather than flour necessarily. So it's not surprising that there's lots of almond trees on the drive up.
No. Almonds, vines, and olives, of course. But it is amazing. Do you know what? That's the one thing I would love. I'd love to have a garden. I said this, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'd love to have a garden with an orange tree and a lemon tree in it, and you go and pick your own citrus. I mean, at this time of year, even there's a lot of citrus. It's the time really, and they harvest it.
Well, there's some of those trees we drove past. Oranges look delicious, amazing size as well of them.
Do you know what? I loved it. You'd be walking around, and just over this old wall or something, they'd be hanging like
olive
branches
trees.
of a. No, I was going to say an orange tree or a lemon tree. You're just like, oh my god, with this wonderful, wonderful fruit.
I think what I liked about the trip, but also just Portugal as itself, is how different parts are, which I know sounds a silly thing to say necessarily, but when you go to Porto, there's definitely a very sort of, it feels like Porto, but if you go down to I've been to Coimbra, it's very different. That's like the university seat, like sort of Oxford. Yeah. That's a very different vibe. Then obviously we've all been to Lisbon. That's quite sort of sunbaked on the hills. It's very like, and obviously going down south, we've been there a lot, but Olhão definitely has a certain feel about it, so like a working town.
Well, we've never really done much. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say we've never really done much of east of Faro.
No, so suddenly going to this other area where it is very rural and agricultural, which I know a lot of Portugal and Spain is, but suddenly seeing that, driving through it, and then getting to Évora. But again, we should say that Évora is still a walled city. So again, once you get past a certain, as you're driving into the city, it starts to go cobbled, and your stones that you mentioned earlier appear on the roads and the pavement. So it's
they are. The roads are mighty, mighty treacherous, I reckon. Like especially if it's been raining, but they are so tiny and narrow.
You really wear trainers because anything else you'd fall over.
You would. Over. It's amazing how many people did.
I know.
Ladies in high heel boots, but I guess you just get used to it. I was like,
I know where the cobbles are, the slippy cobbles are. But we also went and looked at the cathedral in Évora as well, which was high up.
That was amazing.
Like the sort of two bells and all that kind of stuff.
And what about that amazing exhibition of all the nativities? So that man is a guy who...
A fat couple. It was a husband and wife.
Yeah, and they had collected nativity scenes from around the world. So a lot of local ones, as in from Portugal, but then others from around the world. There were thousands, and they weren't exhibiting thousands. They'd obviously chosen certain ones, but there was a lot.
There was a lot there.
It was extraordinary, weren't they, Charlie? Modern ones, glass ones, made out of cork, out of sweet wrappers. I mean, it was just...
And some were like abstract, and some were obviously very trad, and then you had all the difference.
Tiny ones, miniature ones in shells.
Yes, in a shell. I liked that one.
That was absolutely extraordinary. But it was really nice to see that exhibition at Christmas.
Yeah. And it was, I thought it felt very Christmassy. I mean, like we've said, they do a lot of lights, trees, obviously real trees, obviously hard to come by. You can't in that country. But there was lots of lights, lots of presents, shapes of trees, stars, Obviously the nativity is Catholic, so there's a bit more sort of, I would say, a religious bent to probably what they're celebrating. But Feliz Natal, it was everywhere. I can't say it wasn't.
I mean, I think that was a big thing for me. You go through a tiny town, and they had really erected huge lights, like on the entrance and the exit to the town,
or on the churches, or
all the churches. And then where we were in Olhão, I mean, I know that was slightly bigger, but there was one avenue, and all the trees had been wrapped in lights, and then they had those like dripping lights, didn't they? And then another place, you go to a tiny square, and there'd be like huge that looked like, as you said, Christmas gifts wrapped, wrapped with a bow. But these things would have been erected and put in. I mean, it was extraordinary. But they don't really big on wreaths. They hang very random things on their doors.
Father Christmases seem to be sort of hanging.
Yeah, or bits of red and maybe a bit of green. There was that lady who'd hung half her door in a red sash and some greenery. And sometimes on a doorway, it might be a tiny little Christmassy thing, wasn't it? Oh, because what was that town we went to, Charlie? When we drove down.
I was just about to remember. I've just remembered that myself. So we drove. So I'd been there before, but I obviously wanted to show you my dad there. And we drove up what I would call literally, you go towards the Spanish border, and then you go up, and there's this amazing road, isn't there? You sort of it sort of sweeps through the hills.
Oh, yeah, incredible.
And we had an amazing view of a barragem, which is like a kind of dam, but like lake. So we stopped and looked at that, and that was a great view. And then we continued to a town I'd been to before called Alcutim. And basically the river is the border. So you can see Spain across the river.
It was like, it looked like an identical town. So all the towns are quite often, the buildings are white with a orange terracotta roof, and it was built in the hills. So this is quite hilly. So you sort of park and you walk down and down and down. And then you got to the river, you looked across, and there was an almost identical town with the same kind of buildings that was sort of V-shaped like that, wasn't going out like a fan at the top. And the river wasn't that big, but that is Spain. And there was the Spanish flag, and we were the Portuguese.
The rivers both had a fortress. So there was a fortress on the Spanish side and on the Portuguese side. But obviously, there are places to cross it, but this particular town doesn't have a crossing. So the only way to cross it is by sort of water taxi.
Yeah.
So, but it was really sweet. And funny enough, as you said that, it come into my head, we went there. So I'd also recommend going to places like that, because it's got a very different feel to maybe the Portugal that we know, either Lisbon, Porto, Portugal, or the kind of Algarvian beaches. It's very different.
I have to say, seeing, and I've loved it. I mean, we've done a few drives through Portugal and some train journeys, but I think when you are absolutely there amongst it, and you took us slightly off road and off piece, as it were, when you're driving through, orchards and orchards of almond trees or olive, it was just fantastic. And looking at the other trees in the countryside around you, and even things like, Olhão was great. I mean, they kind of had those salt flats. There's a lot of salt flats in Portugal, and they'd created slightly to the west of the town, hadn't they? They've now converted an area to sort of conservation areas. So you've kind of got these mud flats and not salt anymore, but it's all for birds. So, and they've made walkways. So I think actually you could probably walk or cycle now from Olhão to Faro.
Didn't you walk around it on the day it's supposedly open?
Yes, well, I didn't know that it's supposedly open. So it was
President of Portugal had been there.
It was that day so we'd all agreed, hadn't we, that we'd all buy something local.
A gift while we were there.
And this was our shopping day. So we'd all gone off and separated. Anyway, I decided I would just have to nose around. And as I was wandering along front, and it was just lovely along the seafront, the sun was out, I got drawn further and further, and then I sort of spotted in the distance what looked like these. I thought, there's a walk there. Anyway, I found this like nature place, and there was lots of people walking, and you could walk. It was incredible. Anyway, we saw amazing birds there as well. So great stuff, really great stuff.
It was.
What was your highlight, do you think?
It sounds a bit kind of emotion, but I think showing you and my dad the places I'd fallen in love with, like the Shil's Moorish Castle, doing that on that sunny day. But I also think going to Alcutim to see the Spanish
that was wonderful.
But I really liked Évora. I thought it had a great feel as a city. Obviously, they're much more compact cities than what we're used to, but it is a city. And I thought it, the meal we had out was very rustic, but it was delicious.
Yeah.
And incredibly reasonable. The wine has always seems to be good. We didn't have a bad wine. I'd completely forgotten. Personal highlight might have been my gelatos. So we went to Fabrica dos Gelados on our last morning in Évora. Well, it was our last day in the whole country, but in the morning, and I had to have their ice cream, for which they're famous. And I've noted it down because I can't remember it.
Was it fig?
No, well, the one I had was what they call it's called Dom Rodrigo, which is like a kind of, it was nut and caramel. It was absolutely delicious.
Oh, yeah.
And then I also had a cherry sort of yogurt gelato as well. Yeah. And it was delicious, but it was only sort of 11 o'clock in the morning. That and a coffee.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
What was your?
Got some great photos of you eating that. Yeah. The highlight. Yeah, I think. Oh gosh, so many things. I think. Yeah, I definitely think going to that Alcutim and the border, seeing sort of Spain and all that drive round there. And you'd also shown us another area on that day where you had stayed in before, up in the hills and stuff. I thought that was just amazing. And Évora, I think, for me as well. I mean, going round there and not having been to that bit before, and just suddenly finding it. It's funny, isn't it, Charlie? I almost felt like it was a little oasis of a place to find.
That's what I mean.
You drive all these hours across, you go across them through the mountains and everything, and through all this huge, vast countryside.
And then suddenly it's plonked.
And then suddenly there was this amazing, and you see this, I think, was that the castle? There was a cathedral.
Yeah.
At the top of this city. And it's so impressive.
It was.
And I think overall, I think it really struck me. Yes, the Algarve is very built up. It's not quite like Spain, but it is more built up. And, you've got modern villas and things. But the minute you're right, you only got to travel probably an hour, if that, outside, and you see how rural and traditional Portugal still is.
Yeah. And
I think that is so lovely. And I hope they never lose that.
Know. Well, I would say that we said that when we went to the beach. There was a beach I took you to, Praia de Lota, which is again towards the Spanish side of the Algarve. But the reason I loved it, wanted to take you there, is it's still, the fishing boats are still pulled up onto the sand and sort of hidden in the dunes. So there is still that element, but it's still an amazing place to go, I'm sure in the summer it's heaving, but it still feels quite, the Portuguese haven't ruined it and put, sky-rise flats up there and all that kind of stuff yet.
Which, funny enough, when you looked towards, because it was a massive bay, that was huge. It's kind of like the ones you see in
the Blancas.
Yeah, in Spain, which are just high-rise buildings and then big beach, which has got no personality at all. This was lovely because it had sand dunes and it was all low. But you could look into the distance and you could start to see, as you get to Spain, again, just high-rise blocks of apartments and hotels. And you just think, there's nothing, there's no character to that.
Well, they lose the character, don't they?
Totally.
But no, I thought it was a brilliant trip, and obviously just lovely to be somewhere different for Christmas. So,
and Charlie,
think about next Christmas now.
As Jeremy Clarkson said, we did a thing.
So after a year of planning, we did it. So, and now we've got another celebration.
So now we are tonight. New Year's Eve, and we're here with candles lit, fire lit.
And how could I forget?
We've got some bubbly. Though it is, can I just say, this is not midnight. We're not midnight yet. Yeah. But we've got our menu all set. So it's quite a mixed bag tonight. But basically, we've got our scallops to start with.
Ooh, good sound.
Yay.
Best sound in the world, that one.
Which we're just going to have this very simply with some pea, mint and garlic puree.
Yeah.
And then we're having a bit of a game fest in terms of the bird in game. So we've got guinea fowl, we have pheasant.
And the famous partridge.
And the famous partridge.
And the pear tree. Yeah.
So we've been working out how to cook them. You're going to take legs off birds, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's going to be cooked with
slow cook the. Well, I did it last year, obviously, but partly because my oven broke down on New Year's Eve, if we remember. So I took the legs off the bird, the partridge, and then I slow cooked it over the top of some red cabbage and red wine. So I thought it was delicious. So hopefully we'll do the same for you tonight.
Yeah.
And then obviously we're going to do it with all the other birds as well. But we're going to have obviously our usual, some nice potatoes with it, and we've got some great veggies. Yeah. And we're doing parsnip puree.
Yes, which I'll put to do in a minute.
So
some parsnip puree.
I've got to make some lemon curd.
Yes, we're having lemon curd soufflés, which we will be taking pictures of. Maybe I can get a bit of video of you as well, Charlie.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But I think it's quite interesting with the bird, the game thing. So the guinea fowl, we're going to cook. It'll be a bit more like a chicken, then you cover it in bacon. And we'll cook that slightly separately. That takes a bit longer. And then the other two birds can cook together in a little bit of stock and bacon and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
They're gamey.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then, the lemon curd soufflés, I think probably after all that game, we probably need something light to finish with.
Yeah, but it's funny, though, because I think all those birds, they're small. You only get a little bit of meat.
Yeah.
And, they're delicious. They're delicate. That's what I was going to say. And then, of course, I've got a bit of a wheeze for New Year's Day.
Oh, yeah.
But all the leftovers, I'm going to take all the carcasses, and I have a bit of chicken as well, carcass. I'm going to boil that up and make a stock.
Oh, nice.
And then I'm going to make a lovely sort of gamey veg soup with pearl barley.
Oh, yummy.
And I thought any bits of meat that are left over we can put in.
It's a good way of using up the carcasses.
Yeah, I thought we
could
get
more meat off.
Yeah, and carrot and everything. I thought that'd be really warming and restorative, even possibly. Yeah. Get us through.
Lovely. Sounds good to me.
Anyway, and then there's lots to look forward to.
I know.
2026.
So we're going to spend the next few days planning this sort of in-between time, but do some planning of what we're going to do, where we're going to eat and places we're going to go.
And some more trips.
We've
got to do some more trips.
Yeah. Which we're looking forward to already.
Yeah.
Because it's very dark and cold and foggy tonight.
I know.
So any excuse to get into some sun and warmth. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this one. So
goodbye 2025.
Cheers. There's some champers in there for you.
And more to come in 2026. And don't forget, in the new year,
keep relishing life.